right, welcome back to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. We're not going to mess around here. We're going to get right into it with the general manager of the Houston Dynamo, brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. He is Dynamo GM, Pat Onstad. Pat, thanks very much as always.
Thanks for having me on again.
All right, we're going to try to do a first here. We're going to try to do a 15-minute interview.
Good
here.
luck.
You and me
I
usually
wish us
get
both
going.
luck. I wish us both luck.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Number one, Chicharito. We heard Hector Herrera come out, talk about it. What's your thoughts on that?
Listen, he's a fantastic player, and he unfortunately had a horrible injury, toward kind of the end of the season or middle of the season. So I think there's a few things. One is has he got goals in him? Probably. I think he's a like I said before, he's a great player, great career. The issue I think for us is going to be twofold. One is going to be the cap situation for us. Where would we fit him in? Most likely he's a DP if he comes in. And so how do we fit that in? And then number two is what's his health going to be like? And is he going to be available at the beginning of the season, mid-season, or down the final stretch? So I think there's a lot of questions. He's certainly a guy that won't go unnoticed or under the radar. But at this stage, we'll have to see what happens. But I don't want people there holding their breath saying this is the guy that's going to save us. I think the injury is going to cause the bigger issue for him. It's going to take some time for that to heal. We walked through that with Brad Smith this year. Took a little bit longer than we thought it would for him to heal off his ACL as well. And he's back to solid now, but probably took an extra 3 months longer than we thought it would.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. People forget you have to be able to see if Chicharito's still explosive after a serious injury like this, right? And I think people are just assuming everything's going to be perfect. He is an older player.
Yeah, those are tough to come back from. They're not easy. I mean, people do come back from. This isn't career ending. These are injuries that people come back from all the time. Lots of guys in our league had fantastic careers that come back from one, two of them. But excuse me, it's a tough one, and it's his movement. That's the key for him. He's not a stationary striker that holds the ball up and just a big lug in the box. He's a guy that thrives off of fantastic movement in the box, fantastic movement, towing the line, looking to get behind. We know he doesn't have like the top end speed that he used to have, but he's still pretty quick. And the question, like you said, is what is that? Does that affect him coming back off an injury like this? Who knows? But yeah, I think everybody in the league, if you can get Chicharito even a year ago, I think everyone in the league would be jumping at him.
He's Dynamo GM Pat Onstad. This should have been the first question. It should have been first. Congratulations, by the way, you're in the Western Conference final. But I know you are looking ahead, and in the past, I think what we've seen in Houston is kind of reactive club. I know you're way ahead of things already now, and as much as you're focused in on the Western Conference final, you're looking at your roster for next year's. How complicated of an offseason could this be?
Yeah, it is. It's difficult, and when you have success, players are going to come into the office as well, and rightfully so. Some of them have deserve conversations, and we'll see how that goes. So a lot of that's unpredictable until the season finishes. And having said that too, there's now teams in the league that look and go, oh, I like that player off of Houston. Certainly a lot more people calling now than we had last year at this time. So there's some things that we'd like to change, and there's a lot of things we'd like to keep the same. We'll be very happy with our group, but I'm also a big believer that we need to make change for the better of the team and try to move this team along. And keep improving year in, year out. And I think the players understand that as well. And that's what they're fighting hard in the field for.
I know this is a difficult question, but if you put a percentage of how many players of the nucleus of this team you want to retain, what is that? 80%, 85%?
That's difficult. I mean, I think a lot of it will depend. We're tied up against the cap, so a lot of it will depend on what that means and who we bring back and who we don't. It'll also depend on a lot of things and on how the next couple of games go as well. And for us, I think we have some options and some ideas out there, but at this stage, what we want to do is make sure this group has the best chance to win on Saturday.
He's Dynamo General Manager Pat Onstad. By the way, we're going to have the call of the Dynamo at LAFC right here on ESPN 97.5, and our pregame show will start at 8 o'clock. How about Coco? I'm assuming you're fielding legitimate offers for him.
Legitimate. We're feeling feelers is what we're doing so far. But he's been outstanding for us. I thought he had a great game against Kansas City the other day. I think his experience with over the two legs against Costa Rica was excellent. I mean, the through pass he made in game one on the run was phenomenal. So I think he's developing that side of his game, the offensive kind of final play. It's getting better. It's still ways for him to go to be a reliable kind of a pocket type midfielder. But in the end, we also know his best position is probably box to box, and we haven't been able to play him there. And that's a credit to Hector Herrera and Artur, who both had great seasons as well. So we're very fortunate. We have a abundance of riches in those positions. So we'll see what happens with him. But there's no secrets here. Well, like I said, we've been in contact with his agent, with the Coco. We're all on the same page on what we're looking for and where we want him to go. And we'll see if we can get that done in the off season, or if it's something that maybe happens in the summer.
Speaking of hitting the pocket, boy, Nelson Quinones was hitting the pocket in the first half, and Sporting couldn't adjust to him. Yep. At some point, some of these are going to start going in, but you have to be thrilled with the development of this young man. It's been exceptional. And that's two ways. I mean, the defensive work that he's done alongside of Franco Escobar has been exceptional as well.
Yeah, I would give him a lot of credit on the defensive side. I don't think a lot of people give him credit for that. I think he's growing leaps and bounds on that side. I think he's still developing his offensive side, but I think Ben and his coaching staff have done a great job. I think we were, if you asked Asher Mendelson and I in probably April, we were pretty doubtful that we were going to pick the option up. And he started turning a corner around that time. And that was, due to the staff spending some extra time with him after, sitting down, showing him video, making sure he was ready to go on the field. So it was fantastic to see that turnaround for him.
Pat Onstad joining us, Dynamo general manager. Again, we can't say this enough. What a season for the Houston Dynamo. They're in the Western Conference final, and they will take on LAFC at LAFC. All right. There's people reporting that the 4 DPs is going to go through. I know there's a governor's meeting coming up, but is that something that you would welcome, as a GM from your standpoint?
Yeah, I think for us, when there's changes, there's always inevitably going to be changes to our rosters and rules and regulations. I mean, there are smaller tweaks. Going to 4 DPs is a big one. We'll see what happens with what the owners come back with. The owners come back with the rules, and we follow them and go from there. I'll preferably, if I had to be honest, was a little more time to look and give us some time to plan for that. But in the end, if that's what they decide, then we go from there.
So this is something we're not used to around here, being this deep in the playoffs in recent times. It has been a spectacular season, and I'll say this, and I'll shout this from the mountaintops. You yourself personally, your staff, Ben Olsen, onto the player, you guys have been exceptional, and this is an exceptional watch from the outside aesthetically. This is so fun to watch. It's rejuvenated my calling of the game personally, sure, which that doesn't matter that much, but no, it does. I can tell you it's affected me personally. And then to watch an architect like Hector Herrera kind of orchestrating things, it has been spectacular. But because you're so extended now, you're going to have a really short off season before you got to get into CONCACAF Champions League play.
Yeah, we are. But I would say compared to last season where we made 17 changes, or I guess it was 15 up until the summer, it was this we won't be making. I can guarantee that when you say percentages, we won't be doing 50% turnover. So that'll be a little different. And we've done our homework, and we're ready to start making moves when we need to. But we also, we believe in this group, and these guys have changed the culture of the club. You have to give credit, as much as you give credit to Ben and his group and support staff, Craig Devine, Paul Caffrey, these guys, off the field, and, Asher Mendelson, Nick Koba, everybody who's done great work behind the scenes is, you have to give credit to these players. Ultimately, it's the players on the field. They make the difference. And if they're not bought in, they won't make the difference. And they have been, and give them credit that they've done that. And we want to make sure that these guys get an opportunity to keep coming back and, supporting the work that we've done here, and then hopefully go and continue to hoist trophies.
Let's give credit to your medical staff too, because man, you guys have been healthy this year. I mean, Artur has logged ridiculous minutes. Yeah. That the health aspect, that's been exceptional, right? Yeah, you got to really feel good about that.
It's twofold now. And the old days, I think you say, oh, your trainer's been, your athletic therapist is amazing. And I'll give a shout out to Bruce Morgan, who was around for forever with our club. But We now have a huge staff. You know, Craig Devine's our director of sports medicine, but he works hand in hand with our head of performance, which is Paul Caffrey, who's been here for a long time. So Paul's pretty happy with the way things have turned around. He's kind of lived the downside as well. But the two of them together, you know, we train properly. Ben adheres to what we're trying to do in training, and that helps in the recovery, rest of the recovery, and the treatment from the medical staff has been outstanding. So I'm really happy with that, those two departments in our club. And I think they made a big difference in why I've been successful this year.
Today we were invited down to a wonderful event that you guys put on with yourself and Jessica O'Neill and Alex Singer, Ted Siegel, obviously the owner. I thought this was exceptional stuff with the media. You know, not to reveal too much here, but you know, you did say some things that were really interesting. And there was a time where you were talking about the similarities between this team and the 06 and 07. And I think this is something we've said on the air during broadcast that, you know, there is one thing in common with these two teams. There's a lot of differences, but boy, the unity around the team. And you had said very early on, we got to bring winners in, and you did that.
Yeah, no, that, I mean, I think if you pinpoint, instead of going around saying we got this guy right, that guy right, what I think we did really well and got right was the mentality of the group. You know, Eric Shevchenko, who's one, you know, was part of what the Invincibles, I think, with Celtic, and you know, Franco Escobar scoring the great header the other day, but he does that every playoff run. When people look around, you know, we were even going back 2 years, you know, the Steve Clark, these guys that have a winning mentality and have been around it and done it before, I think has made a huge difference for us in the terms of the culture in the locker room. That belief has kind of bled through. I think also the staff. You know, I'll go back again, but the staff that we brought in have been experienced winners before too. That bleeds throughout the entire club, and I'm really proud of the work that everyone has done to contribute to where we are today.
Dynamo General Manager Pat Onstad. Ben Olsen seems to have a fantastic relationship with Hector Herrera.
Yeah, he does. He's done well, and in the end, if your top DP is not getting along with your head coach, that's a problem. And so Ben's experienced enough to know, like, listen, in the end, I got to make this work, regardless of one way or the other. And you know, fortunately, Hector's a pretty easy guy to get along with. And there's times, you know, when they disagree, but they disagree in a really respectful way. And the two of them have developed this wonderful relationship. Part of it is actually both of their kids are in our academy, and so every night they're kind of sitting there watching their kids train. So they've developed this kind of relationship in Spanglish, I think, over time. But I think that's also part of this. You know, this group that Ben's brought together. You know, everyone here has a family. Everyone has here outside of soccer, and I think we all respect that with one another. That's a big part of why this group's kind of like a family.
I think that really shines through to everybody on the outside, including me, you know, that there is this nice unity and a family aspect to it as much as possible. Now, I know you guys are really looking to the future in a lot of areas. I would assume that there's a big focus on the academy and one day fielding 3 Houston kids in a starting lineup and getting into the buying and selling game and the cheap labor game, quite frankly, when it comes to a roster.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think to take the next level as a club and to sustain this success we've had this year, I'd love to say next year for sure we're going to go in an Open Cup. We're going to make a Final Four. It's difficult. Do I think next year we have a group that'll make the playoffs? Absolutely. That, you know, we will strive for that every year that I'm here. That'll be our first and number one goal. And that bleeds back to Dominic Kinnear. That was his number one goal. He'd write down every year and said, make the playoffs. You give yourself a chance to win. And I thoroughly believe that. But going back to your question is, yes, for us to be sustainable, we need to start developing players here from the city of Houston. I think Tony Vigil has done his first year has done a really good job of kind of turning this thing around and getting the boat kind of pointing in the right direction. You can feel there's some momentum in our group, but we still haven't produced guys yet. So when I think we're humming and when we're ready to go is when we've got, you know, to your point, 2 to 3 guys every game where we're penciling them in or even penning them in and saying these are our starters and these guys are going on from here and using us as a stepping stone to get up to European leagues. And that'll take some time, but I believe in a city of 7+ million people and all the different ethnic backgrounds we have here, that there's no reason that we can't produce players for our first team.
Yeah, great soccer city. We're talking to Pat Onstad, Dynamo General Manager. Sebas Ferreira not scoring a lot of goals in Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're monitoring this. How does that make you look at that situation?
Yeah, it's frustrating. You know, we'd hoped the club down there certainly had indicated he was going to get a lot of playing time. He hasn't gotten that. That's been a little frustrating. I mean, we put him down on loan, and literally within 2 weeks they signed a 32-year-old forward. Is it Barati, I believe it is. I'm not sure the name, but he's got all the predominantly the majority of the playing time. He has appeared a little bit of late and had some flashes. Set up a goal the other day. I think he has a couple of assists now, but we'd like to see him banging some goals and see what happens. I mean, it'd be good for his confidence, whether he's back here in January or elsewhere. But you know, we're hoping this thing he can get turned around in terms of the way he's playing. We're in contact. He and I actually text back and forth once in a while, but excuse me. He's frustrated too. He wants to play. You know, he's a professional athlete, and he wants to be scoring goals. So we'll see what the solution is in the next couple of months.
Pat, listen, we've talked to a PR specialist, top man Edgar Velas. At some point, I think you and Ben Olsen are going to come in studio for some Argentine empanadas at the end of the season at some point, which we are going to know is going to end after December 9th. So at that point, we'll have a little get together in there. We'll let you guys really discuss and talk about the season to the fan base. And as always, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for your time, and thanks for being so candid. These are fun interviews.
No, I appreciate it, Glenn. I appreciate your support, and glad that you got a smile on your face now calling our games again. That's great. That's good.
Pat, thank you very much.
No, take care.
All right. That's Dynamo GM Pat Onstad. Great stuff there with him. And we always appreciate him coming on. Look, if you're a Dynamo fan, he basically went over a whole boatload of things there in a quick 15 minutes that I think all of you, many of you had pushed on me to ask him as well. So there you go. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We've got Chad Riley, the head coach of Notre Dame, coming up, who's in the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament, all brought to you by John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm.